She couldn't breathe. The hand around her throat was ice cold, fingers like steel, pressing just hard enough to make the world tilt and blur. Wren Ashford clawed at the arm holding her against the oak tree, her sneakers scraping uselessly against the dirt. Above her, a face emerged from the shadows. Sharp, pale, beautiful in a way that made her stomach drop. His eyes were black, completely black, like staring into a void that went on forever. You. His voice was gravel in winter, low and vibrating through her bones. You're the one who woke me. Wren gasped, shaking her head as much as his grip would allow. Please, I don't know what you're talking about. His head tilted, studying her like she was a puzzle he wanted to break apart. Who sent you? What clan do you serve? Clan? Her mind spun. She didn't understand. She didn't understand any of this. 10 minutes ago, she'd been walking home from her shift at Rosie's Diner on 5th Street, cutting through the woods like she always did because it shaved off 15 minutes and her feet were killing her. 10 minutes ago, her biggest problem was whether she could cover her mom's medication costs this month. Now she was pinned to a tree by a man who didn't feel human. Please, she choked out. I'm nobody. I'm just trying to get home. Something flickered in his expression. Confusion, maybe. Or anger. His grip loosened just slightly, enough for her to drag in a shaking breath. He leaned closer, and she saw his face fully for the first time. High cheekbones. A jaw that looked carved from marble. Dark hair that fell just past his shoulders. He would have been handsome if he didn't look like he wanted to rip her apart. Then he inhaled. His entire body went rigid. His eyes widened, the black bleeding into crimson, bright and burning like coals. What are you? He whispered. Human, Wren said, voice breaking. I'm human, I swear. Please just let me go. But he wasn't listening. His hand moved from her throat to her wrist, lifting it between them. He stared at her pulse point, and she could swear she felt the heat of his gaze on her skin. Your blood. His voice was softer now, but no less dangerous. It's different. I can smell it. Taste it in the air. Wren's heart slammed against her ribs so hard she thought it might explode. She wanted to scream, but the woods were empty. No one would hear. No one ever came out here. I don't know you, she whispered, tears streaming down her face now. I don't know what you want. Please, just let me go. For a long moment, he said nothing. Just stared at her with those burning red eyes, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he released her wrist. Stepped back. But he didn't leave. The moonlight caught him fully now, and Wren pressed herself harder against the tree, legs shaking so badly she thought she might collapse. I've been asleep for 100 years, he said quietly, almost to himself. And somehow, you're the reason I'm awake. I don't understand. No. He studied her face, and something shifted in his gaze. Something almost human. You don't. You really don't, do you? She shook her head, clutching her arms around herself. He took a step closer, and she flinched. But he didn't touch her. Just stood there, looking at her like he was seeing something she couldn't. You've lost someone, he said. It wasn't a question. Wren's breath caught. How could he possibly know that? Her mind flashed to Callum. To his laugh. To the white casket. To the months after when the world felt gray and empty and wrong. Yes, she whispered. The vampire, because that's what he had to be, there was no other explanation, tilted his head again. His eyes faded from red back to black. Who? My brother. The words scraped out of her. He died. When I was 7. Something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe. Or memory. How did you mourn him? Wren swallowed hard. I used to bring him food. To his grave. Every night. I thought maybe he was hungry. Wherever he was. The vampire went very, very still. Where? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. There's a hill. Behind the old Thornwell Estate. I thought that's where they buried him. I was just a kid. I didn't know. Realization dawned in his eyes. Slow. Terrible. That wasn't your brother's grave, he said. Wren stared at him, confusion mixing with the fear still coursing through her. That was mine. The world seemed to stop. The wind died. Even the crickets went silent. No, she breathed. For 6 months, you came to me. Left me food. Spoke to me. His voice was low, almost reverent. Loved me, even if you thought I was someone else. Wren's knees buckled, but she caught herself against the tree. That kind of love, he continued, stepping closer, doesn't just break curses. It creates bonds. Bonds that can't be undone. I didn't mean to, she gasped. I didn't know. I know. And that's the only reason you're still breathing. He turned, moving toward the shadows. Wait, Wren called out, surprising herself. Who are you? He paused, glancing back over his shoulder. My name is Theron Vael. And whether you meant to or not, you brought me back from the dead. Then he was gone. Vanished into the darkness like he'd never been there at all. Wren stood there, shaking, gasping, trying to convince herself it had been a hallucination. Stress. Exhaustion. Anything but real. She ran. Stumbled through the woods, branches catching her jacket, roots trying to trip her. She didn't stop until she reached her apartment building, lungs burning, vision blurred with tears. She fumbled with her keys, finally got the door open, slammed it behind her. Locked it. Double locked it. Slid the chain. Then she saw it. On her doorstep, just outside her door, lay a single black rose. Perfect. Pristine. Impossible. There was no note. No explanation. Just the rose. Wren's hands shook as she picked it up. The petals were soft, real. The stem had no thorns. She looked up, toward the woods barely visible in the distance. And there, standing beneath the streetlight at the edge of the parking lot, was a figure. Tall. Still. Watching. Theron. Their eyes met across the distance. Even from here, she could feel the weight of his gaze. Then he turned and walked into the shadows. Wren stood in her doorway, rose in hand, heart pounding. And for the first time since Callum died, she felt something other than numbness. She felt terrified. But she also felt alive. What do you do when the monster you accidentally saved won't stop watching you? When every shadow feels like it's hiding something with red eyes and a voice that knows your grief better than you do? Wren was about to find out that some bonds don't break just because you want them to. Some connections are written in blood and memory and the love of a little girl who just wanted her brother back. And some monsters don't forget who woke them up. If you think this is intense, just wait until you see what he does next. Because Theron Vael doesn't do anything halfway. And now that he knows who freed him, he's going to make sure Wren Ashford understands exactly what that means. Wren woke up screaming. In the dream, she'd been 7 again, sitting on that hill, talking to the grave. But when she looked down at the sandwich in her hands, it wasn't peanut butter and jelly anymore. It was soaked in blood, dripping between her fingers. And when she looked up, it wasn't Callum standing there. It was him. Theron. Eyes like burning coals, mouth stained red. "You fed me," he'd said in the dream. "Now I'm going to feed on you." She jolted upright in bed, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. Her hands flew to her throat, checking for marks, for proof. Nothing. Just her own pulse hammering beneath her fingertips. "It wasn't real," she whispered to the dark. It wasn't real. But the black rose on her nightstand said otherwise. She'd kept it. She didn't know why. Maybe as proof she wasn't losing her mind. Maybe because some part of her, some stupid, broken part, wanted to remember what it felt like to be seen by someone, even if that someone was a monster. Wren dragged herself out of bed, showered, dressed in her usual jeans and Rosie's diner t-shirt. She had a double shift today. Good. She needed the distraction. But from the moment she stepped outside, she knew something was wrong. The feeling started small. A prickle at the back of her neck. The sense that she wasn't alone. She walked to the diner, glancing over her shoulder every few steps. The street was empty. Morning traffic hummed in the distance. Everything looked normal. But it didn't feel normal. At the diner, she poured coffee and took orders and smiled at customers, but her hands shook. She dropped a plate. Spilled cream. Her boss, Rosie, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and no patience for nonsense, pulled her aside. "You okay, honey?" "Fine. Just tired." "You look like you've seen a ghost." Wren forced a laugh. "Something like that." But it got worse. A man in the corner booth stared at her too long. She nearly dropped another plate, heart racing, before realizing he was just trying to get her attention for a refill. Walking to her afternoon class at Hollow Ridge Community College, the shadows moved wrong. She'd turn her head and swear she saw something, someone, just out of sight. By the time she got home that evening, she was unraveling. Jumping at every sound. Checking her locks 3 times. Pulling the curtains shut even though it wasn't dark yet. She made instant ramen because she couldn't think about real food. Sat on her couch. Turned on the TV just for noise. And that's when she felt it. The temperature dropped. Her breath misted in the air, even though it was June and her apartment didn't have air conditioning. The lamp on the side table flickered. Wren stood slowly, heart in her throat. "Hello, Wren." She spun around. Theron was sitting in the chair by the window. The one she never used. He looked exactly like he had last night, dressed in dark clothes that seemed too old-fashioned, too formal. His hands were folded in his lap. His eyes were black again, watching her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. She screamed. He didn't move. Didn't even blink. "How did you get in here?" She gasped, backing toward the door. "I've been inside your mind while you sleep," he said calmly. Trying to understand. Wren's blood turned to ice. "What?" "You dream loud." He tilted his head. "All that grief. All that guilt. You still think you could have saved him? Get out." Her voice shook. "Get out or I'm calling the police." "And tell them what? That a vampire is sitting in your apartment?" He almost smiled. "They'll think you're insane." She grabbed her phone anyway, but before she could unlock it, he was there. Right in front of her. She hadn't even seen him move. He plucked the phone from her hand gently, almost politely, and set it on the counter. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead." "Then what do you want?" "Answers." He stepped back, giving her space. "I've been following you. Watching. Learning." Her stomach turned. "That's not better. I needed to understand who you are. Why you freed me." He began to pace, slow and deliberate. "So I watched. I learned how you take your coffee. 3 sugars, no cream. I saw the scar on your knee from when you fell off your bike at 9. I heard you hum when you're nervous. That song your brother used to sing." "Stop," Wren whispered. "You don't fear death," he continued, stopping to look at her. "You've been grieving so long, you forgot how to live. You don't know me." The words came out sharper than she intended, anger cutting through the fear. "You don't know anything about me. I know you visit a grave that isn't your brother's." His voice was quiet now, almost gentle. "I know you left food for the dead like it would bring him back. I know you sat there every night for 6 months, talking to someone you thought you'd lost." Wren's vision blurred with tears. "Stop. I know because I heard every word." She froze. "The curse kept me in death sleep," he said. "But I was aware. Trapped in the dark, conscious but unable to move, unable to speak. And then one day, I heard a voice. A little girl. Crying." Wren's knees felt weak. "You told me about your day. About school. About how your mother stopped smiling. You brought me food and said I must be hungry." He moved closer, and she couldn't find the strength to back away. "For 6 months, you were the only voice I heard. The only kindness in a century of darkness. It was you," she breathed. "That grave. All along, it was you." He nodded slowly. The realization crashed over her like a wave. All those nights. All those sandwiches in juice boxes and whispered confessions. She'd been mourning Callum. But she'd been feeding a monster. "I didn't know," she said, tears spilling over now. "I was just a kid. I didn't know what I was doing." "I know." His hand lifted, hovering near her face but not touching. "That's what makes it so dangerous." "What do you mean?" "Magic is intent, Wren. Especially old magic. Curses, bonds, blood oaths. They don't care about accidents." He finally touched her, fingers brushing her cheek, ice cold and impossibly gentle. "You gave me offerings freely. You spoke to me with love. That kind of love doesn't just break curses." "Then what does it do?" "It creates bonds. Blood bonds." She didn't understand. Didn't want to understand. Theron took her wrist, the same one he held last night, and turned it palm up. And that's when she saw it. A mark. Faint, almost glowing, just beneath the skin. A crescent moon. Crimson. Pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. "What is that?" she whispered. "Proof," he said. "That you're mine now." Wren tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "I didn't choose this," she said. "Neither did I. But it doesn't change what it is." He touched the mark with his thumb, and heat exploded through her body. Not painful. Worse. It felt good. Like fire and honey and something she didn't have a name for. She gasped, and he let go immediately. "You feel it," he said. "The connection." She did. She hated that she did. What does it mean? She asked. It means whether you understand it or not, you're bound to me. And I'm bound to you. Before she could respond, before she could scream or cry or demand answers, he stepped back into the shadows. Don't leave town, he said. And then he was gone. Wren stood there, shaking, staring at the mark on her wrist. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it with trembling hands. Unknown number. The message was short. Don't leave town. Others are coming for you. She looked at the window, at the shadows beyond, and she knew with absolute certainty that her life would never be the same. Have you ever felt like your past is chasing you? Like something you did years ago is coming back to collect? Wren thought leaving sandwiches at a grave was just a child's way of coping with grief. She had no idea she was waking up one of the most dangerous creatures to ever walk the earth. And now she's marked. Bound. Tied to him in ways she doesn't understand. But here's the thing about blood bonds, they don't just connect two people. They paint a target on both of them. And when Theron says others are coming, he's not talking about curious neighbors. He's talking about things that make him look tame. Things that have been waiting a very long time for the Bloodstone Lord to wake up. So they can finish what they started. Wren's about to learn that in the vampire world, there are no accidents. Only deaths. And hers just came due. Wren didn't sleep that night. She sat at her laptop, the glow of the screen the only light in her apartment, and typed with shaking fingers. Vampire blood bond. Hollow Ridge vampire history. Bloodstone Lord. Most of what came up was fiction. Romance novels. TV shows. Reddit threads full of people arguing about mythology. But then she found something real. A digitized newspaper archive from the Hollow Ridge Gazette, dated November 3, 1893. The headline made her blood run cold. Bloodstone Lord defeated. Town saved from reign of terror. There was a sketch beneath it. Blurry, done in ink, but unmistakable. Sharp cheekbones. Long dark hair. Eyes that seemed to burn even in a black and white drawing. Theron. Her hands trembled as she read. After months of coordinated effort between local hunters and neighboring vampire clans, the creature known as Theron Vael, called the Bloodstone Lord, has been defeated and entombed. Officials report that 17 hunters gave their lives in the final battle. The monster's reign of blood, which saw countless innocents slaughtered across 3 states, has finally ended. Hollow Ridge is safe once more. Wren sat back, nausea rolling through her. Countless innocents. Reign of blood. Monster. She'd freed him. She'd brought that back into the world. By morning, she'd made a decision. She needed more than a newspaper article. She needed the whole story. The Hollow Ridge Public Library opened at 9. Wren was waiting outside at 8:45. The archives were in the basement, dusty and dim. The librarian, an elderly man who looked like he'd been there since the building was built, pointed her toward the local history section without asking questions. Wren pulled boxes, searched through old records, until she found it. A leather journal, cracked and faded. The name embossed on the cover, Roland Crow, Hunter. She opened it carefully. The handwriting was tight, angular, hard to read in places. But the words were clear enough. October 12, 1893. We tracked the Bloodstone Lord to his estate outside Hollow Ridge. The reports were true. Worse than true. I have seen battlefields. I have seen men torn apart by war. But nothing prepared me for what we found in that place. The blood. The bodies. He is not a creature. He is a plague upon humanity, a monster without mercy. If we do not stop him, he will consume everything. Wren's stomach twisted. She flipped through more entries. Descriptions of the hunt, the planning, the terror. And then, tucked between 2 pages, she found something else. A smaller journal. The leather was softer, the handwriting more delicate. The name inside, Iris Belmont. The first entry was dated months before Roland's. June 4th, 1893. I have been in service at the Vael Estate for 3 months now. The rumors about Lord Vael are greatly exaggerated. Yes, he is brutal. Yes, he is dangerous. But he is not the mindless monster they claim. Last night, a rival clan attacked. They wanted to take the estate, to take us, the humans under his protection. He could have fled. Instead, he fought. He saved me. Saved all of us. He is brutal, yes. But he protects what is his. Wren read it again. And again. He protects what is his. The mark on her wrist tingled. She was his now. The bond made sure of that. Which meant, whether he wanted to or not, he was compelled to protect her. The thought should have been comforting. It wasn't. Footsteps echoed behind her. You're a curious one, aren't you? Wren spun around. A man stood in the aisle between the shelves. Tall, elegant, with silver hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. He wore a gray suit that looked expensive, tailored. His smile was polite. Charming, even. But his eyes were wrong. Too bright. Too knowing. Can I help you? Wren asked, clutching the journals to her chest. Oh, I think it's the other way around. He stepped closer, hands in his pockets. So you're the little human who woke the Bloodstone Lord. How quaint. Wren's heart slammed into overdrive. Who are you? Lucien Grieve. He gave a small bow, mocking. I knew Theron, once upon a time. Before his unfortunate nap. She backed up. Hit the shelf behind her. You're afraid, Lucien observed. Good. You should be. What do you want? To understand what he sees in you. He circled her slowly, like a shark. Theron was always particular about his possessions. But a human? A fragile, ordinary little thing like you? It doesn't make sense. I'm not his possession. Oh, but you are. Lucien stopped in front of her. That mark on your wrist says otherwise. Wren's hand instinctively covered the crescent moon. You know what's funny? Lucien continued. Theron's return has disrupted everything. The balance of power we've maintained for over a century. There are a lot of vampires who want him dead. Permanently, this time. That has nothing to do with me. Doesn't it? He leaned in close. See, the easiest way to kill an old vampire is to sever his bonds. His anchors. And you, sweet Wren, are his anchor now. Before she could move, his hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Pain exploded through her arm. The mark burned like acid, glowing bright red. Wren screamed. Let's see what happens when I break it, Lucien whispered. The window exploded inward. Glass rained down as Theron crashed through in a blur of violence and rage. He slammed into Lucien, and the two of them went flying into the shelves. Wood splintered. Books scattered. Wren stumbled back, hand pressed to her wrist, watching in horror. Theron moved like nothing human. Faster than her eyes could track. His fist connected with Lucien's jaw with a crack that echoed through the basement. Blood sprayed. Whose? She couldn't tell. Lucien laughed, even as Theron pinned him against the wall. Always so protective, Bloodstone. Even after all this time. Touch her again, Theron snarled, and I'll rip your spine out through your throat. She's just a human. She's mine. Lucien's eyes flicked to Wren. Is that what you want, little girl? To belong to him? Do you even know what he's done? Theron's hand closed around Lucien's throat, lifting him off the ground. For a moment, Wren thought he'd actually kill him. But Lucien twisted, faster than she could see, and broke free. He hit the ground, bleeding from a gash on his cheek, and smiled. This isn't over, he said. Then he was gone. Vanished into the shadows like smoke. Theron stood there, chest heaving, blood on his hands. His eyes were fully crimson now, wild and burning. Slowly, he turned to Wren. She pressed herself against the shelf, heart hammering. Are you hurt? His voice was rough, barely controlled. She shook her head. He crossed to her in 2 long strides, grabbed her wrist, examined the mark. It was still glowing, angry and red. He's marked you now, Theron said quietly. He knows your scent. He'll come back. I didn't ask for this. I know. His jaw clenched. But it doesn't matter. You're in danger. Real danger. What am I supposed to do? You're moving in with me. Tonight. Wren stared at him. What? Or you'll be dead by morning. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something other than rage in them. Fear. You don't understand what's coming. But I do. And I'm not letting them take you. She wanted to argue. To refuse. To run. But the mark on her wrist throbbed. And deep down, in a place she didn't want to acknowledge, she knew he was right. She was in too deep now. And the only thing standing between her and the monsters was a monster himself. So what happens when the only person who can save you is the one everyone says you should fear? When the monster with blood on his hands is the only thing between you and something worse? Wren's world just got a lot bigger and a whole lot more dangerous. She thought Theron was the threat. Turns out, he's just the beginning. There are things out there that have been waiting over 100 years for him to wake up. And now that he has, they're coming to finish what they started. But here's the twist. To kill him, they have to kill her first. And Theron Vael doesn't let anyone touch what's his. Not without a fight. Not without blood. Welcome to the vampire world, Wren. Hope you survive it. Wren woke up in a bed that wasn't hers. The sheets were silk. Black. The room was massive, with vaulted ceilings and windows so tall they looked like they belonged in a cathedral. But the glass was thick, tinted dark. Even the morning light that filtered through felt cold. She sat up slowly, her body aching. The last thing she remembered was Theron's hand on her shoulder in the library parking lot, his voice low and commanding. We're leaving. Now. She'd gotten in his car. An old black sedan that looked like it belonged in a museum. And then nothing. She must have passed out from shock, from adrenaline crash, from everything. Now she was here. The Thornwell Estate. She recognized it from pictures she'd seen online. The abandoned mansion on the hill. The place everyone said was haunted. Turns out they were right. Wren slid out of bed. She was still wearing her clothes from yesterday, jeans and her diner shirt. Her phone was on the nightstand. Dead. She tried the door. Unlocked. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. She stepped into a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. Dark wood paneling. Portraits on the walls, people in old-fashioned clothes with eyes that followed her as she walked. She found stairs. Descended into a grand foyer with a chandelier covered in dust and cobwebs. Theron was standing by the fireplace, staring into flames that shouldn't have been burning in June. He didn't turn when she entered. "You brought me here without asking," Wren said. "You were in shock. And we didn't have time for a conversation." She crossed her arms. "Where am I supposed to go? My job, my classes, my mom. I've handled it." She stared at him. "Excuse me? I called your work. Told them you had a family emergency. Your professors received the same message. You can't just decide my life for me." He finally turned. His eyes were black again, unreadable. "I can when that life is in danger." For a moment, they just stood there. The fire crackled between them. "How long do I have to stay here?" she asked. "Until it's safe." "And when will that be?" He looked away. "I don't know." Days passed. 3, 4. Wren lost count. The estate was huge, labyrinthine. She explored during the day while Theron disappeared to wherever he went. She found rooms filled with furniture covered in sheets. A library with books in languages she didn't recognize. A ballroom with a floor so warped the boards creaked with every step. And everywhere, the smell of dust and death and time. Theron barely spoke to her. He'd appear at night, check the perimeter, ask if she needed anything. His voice was always cold. Distant. Like she was a responsibility, not a person. She started to feel like a prisoner. On the 5th night, she couldn't take it anymore. She found him in his study. A room on the 2nd floor, lined with maps and papers and things that looked like battle plans. "What am I doing here?" she demanded. He didn't look up from the map he was studying. "Staying alive. That's it? I'm just supposed to sit here and wait?" "Yes." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." She moved closer, saw what he was looking at. The map was covered in marks. Red circles. Names written in tight script. Lines connecting locations. "What is this?" she asked. "Work." "What kind of work?" "The kind that doesn't concern you." She grabbed the edge of the map, forcing him to look at her. "Everything about this concerns me. I'm the one stuck here. I'm the one with a mark on my wrist that burns every time you're angry. I deserve to know what's happening." His jaw tightened. "You want the truth?" "Yes." "Fine." He straightened, crossing his arms. "There are 12 vampire clans in the Northeastern Territory. When I was entombed, they divided my holdings among themselves. My estates. My resources. My people." "Your people," she repeated. "You mean the humans you kept as blood bags?" Something dark flashed in his eyes. "I mean the humans under my protection. There's a difference." "Is there?" "You wouldn't understand. Try me." He stepped closer, towering over her. "In my time, humans had a choice. Serve a vampire clan and receive protection, or survive on your own and likely die. I gave them safety, shelter, a life. Yes, I fed from them. But I didn't slaughter them. I didn't torture them. I treated them as valuable. As property," Wren shot back. As mine. He said it without shame. Without apology. She stared at him, something cold settling in her stomach. That's what I am to you, isn't it? Property. He didn't answer. I'm bait, she said quietly. You're using me to draw them out. His silence was answer enough. The betrayal hit her like a physical blow. You don't actually care about protecting me. You just need me alive long enough to get your revenge. That's not true. Then tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you'd keep me here if I wasn't useful to you. He looked at her, and for a moment, she thought she saw something crack in his expression. But then it was gone, replaced by that same cold mask. You freed me, he said. You owe me. I was a child. The words came out broken. I was grieving. I didn't ask for any of this. Neither did I. What's that supposed to mean? It means I didn't ask to feel what I feel. His voice rose, just slightly. I didn't ask for this bond. I didn't ask to care whether you live or die. You don't care, she said. You just care about what I can do for you. You don't know what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Turned away. I can't. Of course you can't. She felt tears burning behind her eyes and hated herself for it. Because that would require actually seeing me as a person instead of a tool. Wren. No. She backed toward the door. You know what the worst part is? For a second, I actually thought you might be different. That maybe you weren't the monster everyone said you were. I am the monster, he said quietly. I've always been the monster. Yeah. She wiped at her eyes. I'm starting to see that. She turned to leave. The explosion shook the entire house. Wren screamed as the windows blew inward, glass spraying everywhere. Theron was on her in an instant, covering her body with his as the chandelier crashed down where she'd been standing. Hunters, he snarled. Smoke poured through the broken windows. Shouts echoed from downstairs. Stay behind me, Theron ordered. But there were too many. They came through the doors, through the windows, armed with crossbows and blades that gleamed silver. Theron fought like a demon. Blood sprayed. Bodies fell. But even he couldn't be everywhere at once. Someone grabbed Wren from behind. She tried to scream, but a hand clamped over her mouth. Something pricked her neck. The world tilted. The last thing she saw was Theron turning, his eyes wide with something she'd never seen in them before. Terror. Then everything went black. When Wren woke up, she was in a cell. Concrete walls. A single bulb hanging from the ceiling. No windows. Her wrist throbbed. The mark was glowing, pulsing, like it was trying to reach something that wasn't there. Footsteps approached. A woman appeared on the other side of the bars. Late 30s, athletic build, dark hair pulled back tight. She had a crossbow slung over her shoulder and eyes that had seen too much. Finally awake, she said. Good. We need to talk. Who are you? Sienna Cross. Descendant of Roland Crow. The man who helped put your monster in the ground the first time. Wren's blood ran cold. You know what's funny? Sienna continued. We've been hunting vampires for generations. Protecting people like you. And then you go and ruin everything by waking up the worst one. I didn't mean to. Doesn't matter. He's awake now. And he's already killed 6 of my people. I didn't ask him to do that. Didn't you? Sienna tilted her head. You're bonded to him. That makes you complicit in everything he does. I don't even understand what the bond is. Then let me educate you. Sienna pulled up a chair, sat backwards on it. Blood bonds were old magic. Rare. They tie two beings together, body and soul. If you die, he dies. If he dies, you die. Wren's heart stuttered. What? But here's the interesting part. If you willingly break the bond, he doesn't die. He becomes mortal. For 24 hours. Long enough to kill. Sienna leaned forward. So here's your choice, Wren Ashford. You can keep the bond, stay tied to a monster who's killed thousands, and watch as he uses you to rebuild his empire. Or you can break it. Save humanity. And walk away free. Wren's mind spun. If I break it, he dies. Yes. And if I don't? Then we kill you both. The mark on her wrist burned hotter. Somewhere, she knew, Theron was looking for her. Tearing the world apart to find her. The same Theron who'd called her property. Who'd kept her prisoner. Who'd admitted he was using her. But also the same Theron who'd fought Lucian to protect her. Who'd covered her body with his when the explosion hit. Who'd looked terrified when she was taken. I trusted you with my hunger, she whispered, remembering Iris Belmont's journal. What? Nothing. Wren looked up at Sienna. How long do I have to decide? 24 hours. Then we decide for you. Sienna stood, walked away. And Wren was left alone in the dark, with a choice that would destroy her no matter what she picked. Save the monster or save herself. Love or survival. Her wrist burned. And somewhere in the night, she could swear she heard him. Screaming her name. What do you do when the person you're starting to care about is also the one who's been using you? When breaking free means killing him, but staying means losing yourself? Wren thought she understood betrayal when Theron admitted she was bait. But now she's facing an impossible choice. Break the bond and he dies, or keep it and become everything she hates. And here's the worst part. She can feel him through the bond, tearing through the city, desperate and violent and afraid. For her. The monster everyone says has no heart is breaking for the girl he claimed was just a tool. So who's betraying who now? The clock is ticking. 24 hours. And Wren Ashford has to choose whether some monsters deserve saving, or if that's just what we tell ourselves when we're falling for the devil. The pain was everything. Wren had thought she understood suffering. She'd watched her brother die. She'd felt the emptiness that came after. She'd lived with grief for 15 years like a stone in her chest. This was different. This was her body tearing itself apart from the inside. Every cell screaming. Every nerve ending on fire. She was dying. She knew it. Could feel it. Her human heart struggling, slowing, trying to hold on to something that was already slipping away. And in the spaces between the pain, she saw things. Memories that weren't hers. Theron as a young man, human, holding a woman's hand. A wife. A sister? The memory was old, faded, painful. Theron in battle, covered in blood, eyes wild with something between rage and grief. Theron in the darkness of the tomb, aware but trapped, screaming silently for a century until a little girl's voice broke through. You brought me back, his voice echoed through her mind. You gave me a reason to want to come back. The pain crested, peaked, became unbearable. Then broke. Wren gasped, eyes flying open. The world looked different. Sharper. She could see individual dust particles in the air, hear the heartbeat of a mouse in the walls 3 rooms away, smell blood and earth and something ancient she didn't have a name for. She was lying on a bed, the same one she'd woken up in days ago. But everything felt different now. She sat up slowly. Theron was across the room, standing by the window, back to her. He was shirtless, the wounds from the hunter attack already healing. But he wasn't moving. Wasn't even breathing. Waiting. Did it work? She asked. Her voice sounded different. Richer. Layered. He turned slowly. His eyes widened. Wren looked down at herself. Her skin was paler but not corpse white. Her hands looked the same but stronger somehow. She could feel power thrumming through her veins like electricity. "What am I?" she whispered. He crossed to her, knelt in front of the bed, took her hand gently. "Look." He turned her wrist over. The crescent moon mark was still there, but it had changed. It was gold now, threaded with crimson, glowing softly. "You didn't turn fully," he said, voice filled with something like awe. "The bond wouldn't let you. It made you something else." "What?" "A daywalker." He touched the mark reverently. "Half human, half vampire. The first I've ever seen." Wren's mind reeled. "What does that mean?" "It means you're not dead. Your heart still beats. You can walk in sunlight. But you have our strength, our speed, our senses. And the hunger? You'll need blood. But not as much. Not as often." He looked up at her. "You're something new, Wren. Something that shouldn't exist. But I do." "Yes." A small smile touched his lips. "You do." She reached out, touched his face. He leaned into it, eyes closing. "I felt you," she said softly. "In the transformation. I saw your memories." His eyes opened, guarded. "What did you see?" "Pain. Loss. Loneliness." She stroked his cheek with her thumb. "You weren't always a monster. I became one. We all become something. The question is whether we stay that way." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then the window shattered. Wren moved without thinking. She was across the room, standing in front of Theron, before her mind even processed the danger. A figure dropped through the broken glass. "Lucien." He looked between them, then laughed. "Oh, this is rich." The Bloodstone Lord hiding behind his pet human. "She's not human anymore," Theron said, standing. "And she's not my pet." "No?" Lucien tilted his head. "Then what is she?" "Mine. And I'm hers." "How touching." Lucien's smile faded. "But it changes nothing. You're still a threat. And threats get eliminated." He moved fast. Vampire fast. But Wren was faster. She met him halfway, caught his wrist, twisted. Bone cracked. Lucien's eyes went wide with shock. "She's also stronger than you expected," Wren said. "Impossible." "Not impossible. Just new." She threw him backward. He crashed into the wall, leaving a crater. Theron was beside her in an instant. Together? Together. They moved as one. Wren had no training, no experience, but the bond guided her. She knew where Theron would be, what he'd do, like they'd fought side by side for years. Lucien didn't stand a chance. Within minutes, he was on his knees, bleeding, defeated. Theron stood over him, eyes blazing. You have a choice. Leave Hollowridge. Leave us alone. Or I finish what I should have finished a century ago. Lucian spat blood. This isn't over. Yes, Wren said quietly, it is. Because you're fighting two people who have everything to lose and nothing to prove. We're not trying to rebuild an empire. We're not trying to dominate. We just want to be left alone. Lucian looked at her, then at Theron. You've gone soft, Bloodstone. No. Theron's hand found Wren's. I've just found something worth more than power. Lucian shook his head, stood shakily, and limped to the window. The others will come. Let them, Wren said. We'll be ready. He vanished into the night. Wren sagged against Theron, adrenaline fading. Is it always going to be like this? She asked. For a while. He wrapped his arms around her. But we'll face it together. Together. She liked the sound of that. 3 days later, Wren stood in front of a different grave. Pinewood Memorial Cemetery. Section C, Row 7. Callum Ashford. Beloved son and brother. She'd brought flowers. Real ones this time, not sandwiches. Theron stood a respectful distance away, giving her space. Hey, Cal, she whispered. Sorry it took me so long to find the right place. The wind rustled through the trees. I know you're not here. Not really. But I needed to say this. She swallowed hard. I spent so long trying to bring you back that I forgot to live my own life. I made you my ghost. My excuse for not moving forward. A tear slid down her cheek. I'm letting you go now. Not forgetting you. Never forgetting you. But letting you rest. She placed the flowers on the grave. And I'm going to live. Really live. Even if living means becoming something scary and new and complicated. She felt Theron approach, his presence warm and solid behind her. You would have liked him, she said, not turning. He's grumpy and dramatic and completely impossible. Theron snorted softly. But he's also brave. And protective. And underneath all that darkness, there's someone who understands what it's like to lose everything. She finally turned, looked up at him. Thank you, she said. For coming back. For fighting. For choosing me. Always, he said simply. They walked back through the cemetery together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. What happens now? Wren asked. Now we figure out how to live. How to be what we are without becoming what we were. And if the hunters come back, we face them. He squeezed her hand. 1 year. We have 1 year to prove we're different. Then we better not waste it. They reached the car, an old black sedan that still smelled like time and dust and secrets. As Theron opened her door, Wren looked back at the cemetery one last time. Goodbye, Callum, she whispered. Then she got in, closed the door, and faced forward. Toward whatever came next. That night, back at the estate, they stood on the balcony watching snow begin to fall. Impossible snow in late June, but the world had stopped making sense weeks ago. Do you regret it? Theron asked. Any of it? Wren thought about the little girl she'd been. The woman she'd become. The monster she was turning into. No, she said. I regret losing my brother. I regret the years I spent half alive. But I don't regret finding you. Even knowing what I am? especially knowing what you are." She turned to him. "Because you showed me that monsters aren't born. They're made. By pain and loss in a world that doesn't give them any other choice. But they can also be unmade. By connection. By someone refusing to give up on them. You unmade me," he said softly. "We unmade each other." He kissed her then. Gentle and fierce and desperate all at once. When they pulled apart, Wren smiled. "So what do we do with forever?" "We start small." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "We protect each other. We figure out how to be good in a world that wants us to be bad. We prove that love isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing there is," she finished. "Yes." The snow fell heavier now, blanketing the world in white. Clean. New. Somewhere in Hollow Ridge, hunters watched and waited. Somewhere, vampires plotted revenge. Somewhere, the world kept spinning, dangerous and beautiful and full of impossible choices. But here, on this balcony, two people who shouldn't exist held each other and chose hope. They say monsters can't love. That darkness can't comprehend light. That some people are too broken to save. Wren Ashford used to believe that. But she also used to believe that leaving sandwiches at a grave could bring her brother back. That grief was something you carried alone. That love was safe and simple and easy. She was wrong about all of it. Love wasn't safe. It was terrifying. It was choosing someone despite their darkness. It was becoming something new because the old version of yourself couldn't hold what you felt. And maybe that's what made it real. She thought it was the end when she felt his fangs pierce her skin. When her human heart gave its final beat. But it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And as her new heart, stronger and stranger and completely impossible, beat in rhythm with his, Wren understood something she'd been too afraid to admit before. Some bonds are written in blood and memory and the love of a little girl who refused to let go. Some monsters deserve a second chance. And sometimes, becoming the thing you feared most is exactly what you needed all along. She was his monster now. And he was hers. Forever. What would you sacrifice for love? Not the easy kind, not the safe kind, but the kind that changes you down to your DNA. The kind that turns you into something you don't recognize but somehow always were? Wren Ashford walked into those woods a broken human drowning in 15-year-old grief. She came out something else entirely. Something powerful. Something dangerous. Something loved. They say you can't save everyone. That some people are meant to stay lost. But maybe saving someone else is actually how you save yourself. Maybe the monster you wake up isn't the one you need to fear. Maybe it's the one you needed to become. And maybe, just maybe, the scariest thing in the world isn't death or darkness or transformation. It's finally, after years of being half alive, choosing to feel everything. Even if everything includes fangs and blood and forever.